In this video, I'm going to show you how I went from using exercise as an escape to using it to reconnect. So when I started walking the trails, I initially felt drawn to nature. After a split in my long-term relationship, trying to, reconnect with who I was, I didn't realize that's what I was doing at first. I was just drawn to nature. So I'd go walking the trails. I began starting to jog parts of those trails, and it was through including this form of exercise in my life that I actually started listening to myself. And I found that doing some of the harder sections of a trail often would become very relatable to aspects of my life. So if I was going through something difficult and I was actually trying to jog up a hill, which felt extremely difficult, I started listening to my inner voice and becoming more kind and gentle with what I was saying to myself. So as you're going uphill, and if you're just starting out, like going uphill is quite new as a jogger, runner, there's points where you struggle. So obviously I was getting to these points, and there are things you can start saying to yourself. So understanding what you're saying to yourself was part of my journey. So you could say to yourself, I'm not a runner, and this is why, because this part is extremely hard for me to do. I feel like stopping, and I shouldn't stop if I'm a runner. There's so many things you'll find your inner voice saying to you, and everyone obviously can relate to this when things get hard in all aspects of life. So for me, what I started doing was allowing myself, hearing what I was thinking and saying, but allowing myself choices, kind choices. So like I could stop. Like there was no one telling me I couldn't just stop. So I could definitely stop. There's no problem with that. I could walk. I could push myself for a little bit longer if I felt like it had it in me, and say, well, okay, just see if you can jog just another few steps. So I had those choices, and it didn't matter. I needed to learn to tell myself it didn't matter which option I took. So occasionally I would just stop for a second, get my breath back a little. There might be a kangaroo nearby. I love the kangaroos. So I do that, or I just start walking. And as long as I was still moving, I think was what I told myself most of the time. But then I'd get back into jogging again when I got my breath back a little, and just keep going. And the more often I did this, the more repetitions I did going up and around this hill and this loop, the more I just felt very comfortable allowing myself grace and kindness. And I've started transferring this to other aspects of my life and recognizing the patterns and what I might be saying to myself. So I think if starting exercise is a little bit of a struggle, or something that you are not sure that you actually could be consistent at, that is the point at which you need to ask yourself, why are you saying these things? Doesn't matter if you're consistent. People say consistency matters, and I actually agree that consistency matters, but does it matter to you, and why? Does it stop you? If you think you can't start something and be consistent, does that mean you actually don't try and do it at all? So what works for me with consistency and listening to that inner voice in my head, I set a bare minimum of what I attempt to do each week. So that bare minimum might just be one 5K run in the trails each week. And during summer, that's generally it. And I try and do it twice when it's cooler, because I find it difficult running when it's warmer and parenting and doing everything else. So that's my bare minimum. So I set that as a bare minimum, but I do not get hard on myself if I cannot, for some reason, do it one week. That is fine. I set that as a bare minimum so that I'm aware of when life might be getting a bit much for me, or when I might not be feeling 100%. And so it's more like an indicator of where I might be in life if I don't hit my bare minimum. It's nothing to be hard about myself on. And often, if that does happen where I have missed a week, I will reflect on why did I miss a week. It'll kind of give me an idea. It'll give me a chance to notice where I am in life. And that's when I just start planning, okay, so when this week do you want to try and fit that in? Because I think to myself, well, okay, I could miss 2 weeks, but I kind of don't want to now. And that works for me. That's like psychology that works for my own head. And I've realized this from just starting in the first place, because I do want to be consistent, but I want to be consistent in a way that works for me and it works for my life. And I feel like this is a message that could potentially help more of you, because if you are holding yourself to such a high level with consistency, that may be the thing that's actually preventing you from even getting out and doing anything. And if that's the case, I want you just to be thinking about what it is you're saying to yourself, if you can. And my key tips at the minute for starting would be, what helped me is basically, if you can close your eyes and imagine where's somewhere that's not difficult for you to actually get to, a place that you can imagine yourself running or walking, just doing anything physical in. Like, if you can imagine this place, and it may be in your house, but if you can close your eyes and imagine yourself where you're going to be moving, that's like the first step. Like, honestly, you don't even need to do more than that. You could just sit on that for a week. Because if you've imagined it, you're priming your body. You're going to be there at some point. And when you get there, when you are actually, you might be in that room, you might be on that trail. When you get there, when you pull up in the car or however you got there, congratulate yourself. And just like you actually got to this point where you can start. So that, for me, I think it helps to imagine myself where I'm going to be exercising sometimes if I'm actually feeling a little unmotivated, but I do feel like I need to exercise. So that's definitely key. So just working on what you're saying to yourself. If you're saying anything about an injury, that could be very legitimate concern that you have. So, but it's just recognizing what are you saying to yourself? What can you actually still do? Instead of focusing on what you can't do, what does that leave you able to do? Are you still able to walk? Are you still able to, just immerse yourself somewhere where you're actually gentle movement is going to help you align with your thoughts. So this video is trying to encourage anyone who is just feeling a little stuck in life, a little, like maybe just a little lost as well. Just some tips for how I started. Because the patterns and the stories that you have been telling yourself, and then being hard on yourself if you don't stick to something, they're the things you need to address. That you need to start being your own friend, okay? So recognize those things, imagine where you're going to be when you're moving next. Set a bare minimum and don't be hard on yourself if you don't do it. Your bare minimum could be once a month. Your bare minimum could be like twice a day. Like whatever works for you, but it needs to feel achievable with your life, ups and downs and everything. It needs to feel achievable. And the bare minimum does not matter. It's not even the bare minimum. It is the indicator. So you've set the point where you know where you may be falling behind. So try it. Set a bare minimum. Try it a few times. Readjust if needed. And then pat yourself on the back. Just be so proud that you're actually doing this. And I will share like a lot more than this about my journey and how I began. Exercise has been such an important part of my toolbox with my mindset, like working on my mindset post a very long-term relationship and finding myself again. So it's just part of my toolbox. I also enjoy discovery through meditation and other things like this. So I think for me, the fact that I did start with moving my body and reconnecting with nature as a way to reconnect with my heart and my mind, that's why I'm starting with this content, with this video today. So I really appreciate if you've watched this far. I hope that there's something helpful in this for you, and I'll continue to share as much as I can, because we can be consistent together, and I can set a bare minimum for myself for posting content. And then I will see if I can stick to that. So like, this is applicable to all areas of life. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Like and subscribe, up to you. It's your path, your journey. If you find this helpful, you can. So thank you. See you next time.